Brothers and sisters, certainly the fundamental thing in life is to have reality. In the name of truth, I have to say that the humanoid is still incomplete. If we look at the lower species that inhabit the face of the earth, one-brained and two-brained animals, we can demonstrate for ourselves that they are born complete. A horse is complete, a cow gives milk and is born complete, but we are born incomplete. Our humanoid body is formed inside the maternal womb. There it is gestated, and then it is born, it grows, it develops. Creative energy brings it into existence. In its development process inside the maternal womb, we see how the various organs are being formed, but at birth it is not yet complete. Not even the newborn's frontal fontanelle is closed. What the people call here the crown or the crown of the head of the newborn is not closed. If we add to that its condition, we will see that the newborn is not complete. Certainly, and in the name of truth, and this is recognized by the professors of the medical university, the intellectual animal, they say, is a rational mammal. And it is true, it is not complete. The germ that developed in the maternal womb by the fact of being born does not mean that the creature has already been completed. The development of the creature continues in its ordinary sense as humanoid until the age of 21. Now you will understand why it is really dangerous for an adolescent to have sexual intercourse. The adolescent has not completed his development and does not complete it until 21 years of age. The creative energy that brought it into existence, that energy that caused the conception of the fetus within the womb, that brought it to life, that same energy has to develop it. But only at the age of 21 has the adolescent reached full development as a humanoid. But that does not mean that, really, for this reason that total development is already complete. No, it has developed as a humanoid, but not as a human. The human must still be made, the human must be created. We are humanoids, but not humans. The human must be formed within the humanoid like the butterfly within the chrysalis. In ancient times, all this was understood, all this was known. There is something very beautiful inside of us. I mean the consciousness, I mean the essence, what is called soul. Originally, the essence or the soul, or whatever you want to call it, came from the Milky Way many years, millions of years ago. The essence of each of those present here came from the Milky Way, and in the Milky Way it will resonate with the harmony of the universe. Later, it passed to the solar system, and continuing through the planets of the system, it arrived here in the planet, then developed as a mineral, continued as a vegetable, continued as an animal, and finally was incorporated into a humanoid organism. But the essence, unfortunately, due to our mistakes, got wrapped up in a series of undesirable elements. The essence is the consciousness, and it is wrapped or bottled up in an accumulation of undesirable elements. It is necessary to break those elements so that the essence awakens. An awakened essence, an awakened consciousness has access to the superior worlds of eternity. An awakened consciousness can see, touch, or taste the great realities of the world of the pure spirit. An awakened consciousness can control all the adverse circumstances of life. An awakened consciousness is never a victim of circumstances. It can direct them at will, it can originate new circumstances. But for the consciousness to be awake, the undesirable elements that we carry within us must be destroyed. Those elements are anger, greed, lust, envy, pride, laziness, gluttony, etc. It is necessary to remove such elements and instead create something different. Those undesirable elements that we carry within us are a wrong creation, a false creation, and must be destroyed. Each one of us carries inside a false creation. We need to make a new creation within ourselves, and this is only possible by destroying our psychological defects, ending all those errors that we carry in the depths of ourselves. We need to finish those errors, eliminate those defects, and create something new within ourselves. It is possible to create something new. It is possible to create the superior existential bodies of the being. If each humanoid takes advantage of that creative energy that brought them into existence, that energy through which they were able to have a body of flesh and blood. If they reach the age of 21 and instead of squandering it, they take advantage of that energy to create their superior existential bodies of the being, the essence would be clothed with those bodies. That would be a new creation. So it is better to make a new creation than to continue with that old false creation that we all have within. The old creation that we carry within us, I repeat, is constituted by the psychic aggregates, and these aggregates are our defects. We have countless flaws. As Virgil stated, "No, not if I had 100 mouths, 100 tongues, and throats of brass, inspired with iron lungs, I could not half those my horrid crimes describe, nor half the punishments those crimes have met." The Aeneid, we need to eliminate such defects, such aggregates. Instead of those aggregates, which seem like a true swarm of demons in our psyche, in our interior, we should create, I repeat, the superior existential bodies of the being. These are created with the same energy with which our physical body was created, with the same energy with which it developed in the maternal womb, with the same energy that made it grow from a child to the age of 21. Such energy is called sexual energy. It is the energy of sex. So, in ancient times, people were wiser. In Lemuria, people lived from 12 to 15 centuries. There was, at that time, enough time for the essence to dress itself with the superior existential bodies of the being. The Lemurians, after the age of 21, instead of wasting their creative energy, they transmuted it. With that energy, they created the superior existential bodies of the being. And if they took many centuries to get married, it didn't matter because they lived from 12 to 15 centuries. So that, always in the long run, they could afford to manufacture, through their sexual energy, the superior existential bodies of their being. Nowadays, life is very short. At the age of 21, youth properly begins. Before the age of 21, there is adolescence first and second childhood. Unfortunately, adolescents already spend their sexual energy without having finished or even their development as humanoids. If adolescents, instead of squandering their sexual energy, saved it and, upon reaching 21 years of age, intelligently took advantage of it to create the superior existential bodies of the being, we would have a harvest of masters. Unfortunately, upon reaching adolescence, youth, waste of creative energy occurs, abuse of sex occurs, etc. Today we are in a hurry because we no longer live 12 to 15 centuries. Nowadays, it is necessary to create the superior existential bodies of the being before old age arrives, because if we reach old age and have not created those bodies, we will have to disincarnate, having wasted our time. We will find ourselves in the inferior astral world, then converted into something that has no value, since what is death? Death is a subtraction of fractions. When the hour of death arrives, what is it that continues in the beyond? The values. You know that if we subtract the fractions, that is what remains, the values. And death is a subtraction of fractions, and what continues are the values. But what values are those? Positive values and negative values, the eyes of good and the eyes of evil, the eyes are our defects, all of these are eyes. What is the ego then? A sum of eyes. And those eyes, what are they? They are undesirable subjective elements. Not all eyes are bad. There are good ones, but they don't know how to do good. They do good when it shouldn't be done. The eyes of good don't know how to do good. You know, for example, that the water in the sink is useful. You know very well that the fire in the kitchen is good. But if the water, for example, runs out of the sink and floods the house, it will be bad. If the fire comes out of the kitchen and burns the curtains in the living room, it will be bad. Thus, good is what is in its place, and bad is what is out of place. The good eyes that we have inside do not know how to do good. They do good when it should not be done. They don't know how to do it, and if they do it wrong. That is why it is necessary to put an end to the eyes of good and to put an end to the eyes of evil, to wield the sword of cosmic justice and to go beyond good and evil. Eliminate, I repeat, the wrong creation that we all carry inside and to make a new creation. This is very indispensable. How shall we make that new creation? Well, simply by transmuting the creative sexual energy. Instead of walking around in lasciviousness, in fornications, take advantage of that energy that put our body into existence, that wonderful energy that made us grow. Use it wisely to create the superior existential bodies of the being. If we didn't do the work, if we didn't put an end to that mistaken creation that we have inside all of those eyes, well, that bunch of devils is the only thing that will continue there in eternity after death. But if we create the superior existential bodies of the being and eliminate our psychological defects, we will receive the psychic and spiritual principles, and we will become true humans, real humans. With the sexual energy, wonders can be done. If we transmute our sexual energy with it, we can create the astral body. You know that you have an astral body when you can use it, when you can travel with it. You know that you have an astral body when you can use it, like your hands or your feet. That astral body is subject to 24 laws. It is a marvelous organism. Rare are the people who are born with an astral body, since it is not a necessary implement for physical life, but one can create it, one can manufacture it. Whoever gives oneself this luxury after death will find that one has a true astral personality. One will find that one is still alive in the region of the dead. One can also afford to create the mental body. Ordinary people do not have a mental body. Really, each psychological defect is personified by an eye. We have many eyes inside us and not just one, and each one of the eyes that we have has its own mind to think, so we have many minds. Those who speak, those who say that we have one mind are wrong. We need to create an individual mind, and that is possible by transmuting sexual energy and eliminating, from our understanding, the multitude of eyes that we have. One knows that one possesses the body of objective reasoning or of the individual mind when one truly learns how to think in accordance with the data of our consciousness. The mental body is the body of objective reasoning. There are two types of reasoning, my dear brothers and sisters. The first is subjective reasoning. It is based on external sensory perceptions. With the data of the senses, one elaborates one's concepts, and this is how it works. One cannot know anything about reality, about truth, about the being, about God, because one's reasoning processes are based on the data from the five senses and nothing else. That is why Mr. Immanuel Kant, the great philosopher of Königsberg, in his Critique of Pure Reasoning demonstrated that subjective reasoning, the common and ordinary reasoning that we all possess, could never know anything about the truth, about reality. But there is another reasoning that is well worth developing within us. I mean, clearly, objective reasoning. Objective reasoning is when you have a mental, individual body, and that mental body must be manufactured, and it is manufactured with sexual energy through the transmutation of the creative sexual energy. Whoever possesses that mental body will have objective reasoning. The objective reasoning is based on the data of the consciousness. It works with the data provided by the consciousness. Humans of objective reasoning are the true sages, the enlightened ones. One knows that one possesses an individual mental body when one is capable of receiving divine wisdom directly, when one is capable of thinking without the need of the information from the five senses. Now, speaking about the will, what shall we say? Ordinary people do not have a defined will. Since we have an erroneous creation within us, defects personified by such and such eyes, obviously each one of those eyes, each one of those thinking demons that we carry within us possesses its own will. Thus, we have many wills, not just one will. We need to create the body of the cognizant will to be able to direct our actions. Whoever affords oneself the luxury of creating the body of the cognizant will be able to create new circumstances. One will not be a victim of circumstances. We need to create that body, the causal body, as it is also called. Whoever has the luxury of creating it obviously becomes a master. A human with the physical, astral, mental, and causal bodies is a developed human. Animals are born complete, but the humanoid is born incomplete. It needs to be developed, completed through cognizant work and voluntary suffering. One needs to transmute the creative sexual energy to create the astral, mental, and causal bodies and receive the psychic and spiritual principles. This is how one becomes a human. One needs to eliminate the wrong creation that one carries within, constituted by the pluralized eyes, multiplicity of demons personifying errors, and that every humanoid carries inside. Thus, we must develop the human being within ourselves. The human being must be created. We need the human's availability. Creating the human being is essential. The astral body has its laws. It is governed by 24 laws. The mental body is also a wonderful organism governed by 12 laws, and the causal is governed by 6 laws. The astral body has its anatomy, its physiology, its biology. There is a secret procedure that allows the adept who disincarnates to continue living here, in the physical world, with the astral body. One can materialize that body and live physically coexist with people for a year after death. It is a complete organism. It must also be nourished, and it is nourished when we learn to transform the diverse impressions of life, when we learn to transform them through a very simple key, which consists in learning to welcome the unpleasant manifestations of our fellow people. Whoever does this with such transformed impressions will be able to feed the astral body so that it develops fully. I want you to have an astral body and to be able to function in all areas of the universe. With that body, you can travel to any place on Earth. With that body, you can attend the Great White Lodge. I want you to have a mental body so that you learn to receive the knowledge of your own being directly, so that you no longer depend on the 5 physical senses, so that you can experience the truth. I want you to have a body of the cognizant will so that you are not victims of circumstances, so that you can create new circumstances. There is a need to make a new creation within ourselves. It is essential to create the human being within ourselves, but it is also essential to eliminate the wrong creation that we carry within us: anger, greed, lust, envy, pride, laziness, gluttony. All these defects are personified by living demons. In ancient Egypt, such demons were called the red demons of Seth. So then we must put an end to those red demons to liberate the soul, to liberate the consciousness, and instead of that mistaken creation, manufacture the superior existential bodies of the being. You have to do the great work, but do it with love. After receiving this knowledge, we must share it with our fellow people, take the teaching to all corners of the world, found everywhere, groups of people who are, in truth, willing to study the entire body of doctrine. It is necessary for you to understand that the sun is doing a great experiment. The sun wants to create solar humans. During Abraham's time, there were quite a few creations of solar humans. In the first 8 centuries of Christianity, there were also quite a few solar humans who were created. In the Middle Ages, a few were created. But in this age, the creations have been very poor. The sun is doing an experiment, but since the creations have been very few, it is going to destroy this root race, and it is going to destroy it shortly with a great cataclysm. It is good that you know that a root race does not last more than the duration of a sidereal year. Just as the Earth has its year, which consists of the revolution of the Earth around the sun in 365 days and some fractions with minutes and seconds, so there is also a sidereal year. And it is that our solar system, together with our Earth, travels around the zodiacal belt. This trip is equivalent to about 25,968 years. That is the time that a root race lasts. Our root race began after the universal flood, then a journey began that began in the sign of the water carrier, but the journey is ending because the solar system returned once again to the sign of the water carrier, Aquarius. During the journey, the poles of the Earth are deviating, and we already know that, at this time, the geographic pole does not coincide with the magnetic pole. At these instants, if an airplane travels towards the pole, directed by the magnetic needle, when it descends on what is considered exactly the pole, we will find that the pole is no longer in that place. Because the magnetic pole no longer coincides with the geographic pole, the poles are drifting towards the equator. To this are due the changes in the climates, the alterations in the spring, the alterations in the summer, etc., and soon the axis of the Earth will have been revolutionized. Add to this unusual event the arrival of the planet Hercules, like a gigantic monster comes to devour the Earth. It is already in view of all the telescopes in the world. It belongs to a very distant solar system, which is called the Tylo system. Hercules is 6 times bigger than the planet Jupiter and will pass through an angle of our solar system. When this is the case, the revolution of the axis of the Earth will precipitate, and the fire of the volcanoes, attracted by the force of gravity of the planet Hercules, will set the world on fire, and the water will complete the tragedy. The seas will change their beds, and these lands on which we are living will remain at the bottom of the seas. Indeed, the journey is ending. There are only a few degrees left for the journey to come to an end. And it is good that you understand this, that the journey is coming to an end and that a root race does not last more than the sidereal year. Now, just as the Earth has its 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter, so also the sidereal year has 4 seasons: spring, the golden age; summer, the silver age; autumn, the copper age; winter, the iron age. At this moment, we are in the Iron Age. In winter, humanity has reached the height of perversity and human creations are few. There have been few successes in nature's test tube. People have lost all interest in the solar intelligence. And when people lose all interest in solar intelligence, the sun also loses interest in people and has the luxury of creating a new root race for the experiment in the laboratory of the nature. The sun wants to create solar humans, but it is not possible to make that creation if we do not cooperate with the sun. Within us are the seed germs of the astral, mental, and causal bodies, which if developed, we become solar humans. But it is necessary that they develop. They cannot develop if we do not cooperate with the sun. We need to cooperate with the sun, my esteemed brothers and sisters, if we want the development of the superior existential bodies of the being. It is necessary to understand the need to cooperate, but I am going to specify in a practical way what I am saying. What are the eyes? They are psychological entities that live deep within ourselves. There are good ones, there are bad ones, there are useful ones, there are useless ones, but they are subjective and inhuman. Our consciousness is bottled up within those eyes. We need to pulverize them, to reduce them to ashes, and that is possible if we are always in a state of alert perception, alert novelty. It is in the field of practical life where we must discover ourselves, because in relation to those around us, the defects that we carry hidden emerge, and if we are alert, we see them. A discovered defect is a discovered I, an I that has a mind to think, that has a will, that has desires. It is a diabolic living entity that lives within us. If we set out to destroy it, we destroy it. The first thing that interests is to discover it and then to disintegrate it. Observation is essential. Observe our own psychological defects and then judge them and finally disintegrate them. Spies in war are first observed, second are tried, and third are shot. This is what we have to do with egos. If a thought of anger assails us, it is an I that we must first observe, then judge, and thirdly disintegrate. Yet, it is not possible to disintegrate any psychological defect with the mind. The mind, by itself, can label any defect with any name it wants, pass it from one level to another, hide it from itself and from others, but not finish it, not annihilate it. It takes a power that is superior to the mind. Fortunately, that power exists. I want to refer emphatically to the power of the Kundalini. Through the Divine Mother Kundalini, we can pulverize any defect. Kundalini is Tenansen, Kundalini is Isis, Kundalini is Ramayo, Kundalini is also Diana the Huntress. Likewise, she is Adonia, and she is Isobertha, and she is Rhea, and she is Cybele, and she is Maria, a part of our own being, but a derivative. So, if we appeal to her, to that part of our own being, and we beg her from the bottom of our hearts to disintegrate the I that we have understood, that we have comprehended, she will do so, she will pulverize it, she will disintegrate it. And finally, with this procedure, we will be able to disintegrate, ending all the I's that we have inside us, and one day the essence will be free. Thus, it is necessary to eliminate this mistaken creation in order to make a new creation within us, to create the bodies of gold for the intimate Christ, to raise the temple of the Lord within ourselves. It is a temple of pure gold. And that temple will be formed by the superior existential bodies of the being, and those bodies will be formed by transmuting the creative energy. We will teach you all of this in our works, the whole Tantra. We will teach you how to transmute that powerful energy in order to create the superior existential bodies of the being. In my books, I have written what that science is. Therein the perfect matrimony, therein the mystery of the golden flower, therein the secret doctrine of Anuak. In these books is the key to transmute the creative sexual energy and create, by means of it, the superior existential bodies of the being and become solar humans. Thus, eliminating the inhuman and creating the human within us is necessary. It cannot be postponed. Sacrifice for humanity is the third factor. Of course, if we truly love human beings, we will raise the torch high to show the way to others. Unfortunately, today, as we are nothing but simply humanoids. The time has come to create the human, for a human to emerge, for a human to appear. People continue to believe they are humans, but a human is the king of creation. Which one of them can govern themselves? Behold, if we are not capable of governing ourselves, how could we govern the universe? And if the human is the king or queen of the universe, then wouldn't it be contradictory to say that all of us who inhabit the earth are humans? If that were true, we would all be kings and queens of creation, masters of the universe, and up to now, we are not even masters of ourselves. We are victims of circumstances, victims of our own mistakes. There is a need to destroy that mistaken creation that we carry within us and make a new creation. It is beautiful to have an astral body to explore all corners of the universe. It is beautiful to possess a mind that can function with the exclusive data of the consciousness. It is beautiful to possess a body of willpower that will allow an individual to govern all circumstances, to become master, but truly master of the universe.